Good morning, everyone. We are in Mishna Meiser Sheni, Parak Dalet, Chapter 4, Mishnah Dalet, Mishnah 4. So yesterday we mentioned the fact that when a person redeems their own Meiser Sheni, that they have to add there's a fee of a fifth more that has to be added when you redeem it. And that is only incumbent upon the owner of the Meiser Sheni, not if somebody else is redeeming it. So the Mishnah says, Ma'arimina Meiser Sheni. One may use a trick when it comes to getting out of the fee of a fifth for Meiser Sheni. Ketzad, how is it? Omer Adam Levnoi Ulavitoi Hagdoilim. A person can say to a son or daughter who are Gedolim, they're adults. Now, in this context, adult means a boy who's 13 and a girl who's 12 and a half. Not just 12, but 12 and a half. Ivrim, or to his servant or maidservant who are Jewish. Heilach mois elu, take these monies, ufdeilacha meiser sheni zeh, and redeem for yourself this meiser sheni. So what he's doing is he's basically doing a trick of sorts. He's using a legal loophole, in which, well, I don't call it a legal loophole, but he's basically using a means by getting someone else to do the redemption for him. And basically he finds somebody in his own house who actually he can do this with, that someone else, it's considered like someone else redeeming his Meiser Sheni, and that person doesn't have to do a fifth. At the end of the day, everything is going to probably stay the same. It's your son, it's your daughter, it's your servant, it's your house. At the end, okay, let's explain better. But so the point is like this. You're giving these people the money to redeem. Now, let's talk about the examples that are given. The examples are, all the people mentioned here are people that we can call them financially independent of their father, which means is that they can make their own transactions. They can make their own acquisitions of money. And when they do it, it will not automatically go to the father. As we will see, a child who's considered a minor, whatever they acquire automatically goes to the father. But here, which means that they can't do anything. They can't make any acquisitions on their own. But here we're talking about children who could. A boy who is 13, or a girl who is 12 and a half. A girl who's already bas mitzvah, but she's under 12 and a half. She's called a nara. And actually, her acquisitions go to her father. It's only when this is Torah law, but it's only after she's 12 and a half that she becomes independent in the sense she can make her own transactions. When we talk about a Eved or a Shivcha Ivrim, that means a Jewish servant or maidservant. In essence, these people we call them indentured servants or slaves. But if they're Jewish, then they are not considered, their bodies are not considered the property. They're not owned by the master, but rather they're indentured. They have to do the work of this person that they have been sold to or sold themselves to. But because they are Jewish slaves, again, they're financially independent in the sense that if they acquire something, it belongs to them, it belongs to the master. Therefore, being that this is the case in all these examples of these people mentioned here in the Mishnah, what you can do is like this. There's two ways to do it. You can either, the Mishnah says you give them money, you say, take this money and redeem for yourself the Meiser Sheni. So there's really two ways here you can do it. You can take the money and give them. You can gift them the money. The money therefore becomes theirs. So it comes out that it's someone else that is redeeming your produce. They may be your children and living in your house, but at the end of the day, they are independent financially of you. They can make their own acquisitions, and therefore you gift them the money. It is now their money. The produce, the Meiser Sheni, belongs to the parent, to the father, and the child redeeming the Meiser Sheni of the father is like someone else redeeming the Meiser Sheni of the father. That we say there is no fifth that's added. Now, since it's the child that's redeeming it, then now the produce becomes the child's. But the child's not going to stop his father from eating it. The father can eat it. The child can belong to the child. The child can allow his father to eat the Meiser Sheni. I'm sorry. After you redeem it, the sanctity goes on the money. the produce is chul and it's not sanctified, it actually does belong to the child, to the redeemer, but he'll let his father eat it. So at the end of the day, you'll land up with this produce without having to pay a fifth. Another way that it could work is that actually you don't gift the money to the child or to the servant. It's your money, but you tell them, take my money and redeem this, my sheni produce, for yourself. Which means at the end, when it is redeemed with the father's money, who lands up with the produce? Not the father, but rather somebody else, which is the child. The basic rule is that if the money and the produce belong to the same person, then that person has to add a fifth when he's redeeming. But if either the money or the produce, if the money and the produce belong to different people, so then we say that that's not called the owner is going ahead and doing the redemption, because in some aspect it's not his, either from the point of the money because he gave the money to the children, or because the children are redeeming it for themselves and it doesn't go to him, the fruits afterwards, and therefore he's not going to have to give a fifth, because you don't have, so to speak, the full owner, the owner of both the money and the produce doing involved in the redemption. So again, the point is that when you go ahead and if somebody else redeems Meiser Sheni, right? Let's say the case, just a regular case, somebody else redeems Meiser Sheni of yours. So the money is transferred from the produce onto the money. The produce belongs to the person to the redemption. And the person, again, if it's his money, he's going to have to take that money to Yerushalayim. So in the first case where you go ahead and you give the money to the child or to the servant, it's their money. They are redeeming your produce. And right there, you have the money and the produce belong to different people. At the end, it comes out that because he redeemed it, the produce is going to become his. But again, the produce being redeemed is not his, is not the person who owns the money. In the other way, when we're talking about that you are giving him your money, but telling him that what's redeemed is going to go to him. So it's interesting that at the point of redemption, the money belongs to the same person, but the produce is going to go to a different person through the redemption. And therefore, again, that's not called the owner doing the person who has the money and the produce doing the redemption together. That's not called the full owner, so to speak, doing the redemption. And therefore, there's no fifth that's added there. However, he cannot say so to his son or daughter who are minors, or to a slave or a female slave who are non-Jewish. Because in that case, their hand is like his hand. Whether we're talking about a child who's a minor, a boy under bar mitzvah, a girl under 12 and a half, in this case, we're calling her a minor regarding that, or to his non-Jewish slave, who is his property. There, the rule is their hands are like his hands. Whatever they acquire belongs to him. So therefore, if you give them the money, you gift them the money, doesn't stay by them. It automatically goes to you. So when they redeem, what's the redeeming? The redeeming is the money and the produce is the same person. The same thing if, let's say, you don't give them the money and they're redeeming their fruits. So again, it's your money, it's your produce. It's that's just you doing the redemption. That's the full owner doing the redemption. And therefore, in that case, this trick isn't going to work. It can only work when you're talking about a child who is already financially independent in the sense that they can do their own transactions. And therefore, in that situation, there is where you can do this trick of basically someone else doing the redemption for you during the redemption, and you don't have to pay the fifth. The same thing could have been done with someone who's not part of your household. You could have done the same thing. You give him the money, tell him to redeem it. You can give him your money, tell him it's going to go after it's redeemed, it goes to him. That would have accomplished the same thing. It's just that basically the Mishna is saying that even by these people, where at the end of the day, you will land up not losing out on anything. And if you tell somebody else to do it, the fruit becomes his. He's going to take it and go away with it. If it becomes a child's, it's going to stay in the house anyway, and the child's going to let you use it. So at the end of the day, with this trick, you really gain in the sense that not only are you not paying the fifth, you're really landing up at the end the same thing with no loss whatsoever. Nonetheless, this trick, this harama, this trick still may be done even in those situations with the people from your household. Okay, we're now in the 5th chapter of the Chavetz Chaim, and we're in paragraph Dalet, paragraph 4. What we're discussing until now about speaking about how a person is lacking in wisdom is talking about, where you just say that he's not wise in worldly matters. All the more so. All the more so if you tell about someone that people in the city assume is wise in Torah knowledge, and you say he's really not that wise, he's really not that knowledgeable. He knows a bit, he knows a little bit. And now because of that, the stature that he held in these people's eyes when they thought that he was wiser now falls. That is certainly Lashon Harah, even if it's true, being that there is no constructive purpose in this. He's just trying to put the person down. Because whatever case this may be that you are saying about someone that people assume was knowledgeable in Torah that he's not, is going to cause him at the end some kind of damage, either monetarily or emotionally. But Chavetz Chaim says, I'll give you 2 examples. For instance, to say about the rabbi of a city, before the people of the city, he's not that wise in Torah knowledge. He knows enough to get by. He knows enough just to practically get by to answer whatever, so the basic questions that'll come by. So he's not really that knowledgeable, but, he knows enough to get by. Even if it's true, Lashon Harah Gemurihi, Midaraisa. It is considered Lashon Harah from the Torah. By doing so, he completely lowers the person's prestige. And he could actually cause him to lose his livelihood. And because of that, he lowers the honor of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. This is what he actually explained. He used this example before. If you say about a rabbi, he's not that knowledgeable, so people aren't going to want to ask him their questions, not going to come to for their disputes, may even make him lose his job. People will look down, won't have the same honor for Torah scholars in general, and won't listen to this person's Torah guidance. So that's if you go ahead and say about a person who's not knowledgeable in Torah on a rabbi of the city. Let's say somebody who's newlywed married, okay, and the custom was, it used to be the custom that the daughter would stay in the same city as her parents, and the new husband would come and move into that city. And very often, the people who got involved in this match were assuming that the young man who's marrying their daughter was a Torah scholar. Okay, so this new person comes into town. People don't really know who he is. And you say about him, he's really not such a big, he doesn't really know that much. He's really not that such a Torah scholar. When that gets around in the city, that's going to cause that both his mother-in-law, father-in-law, members of the household are going to be very disappointed when they hear this and not look at him in the same way. When they hear that people in the city don't consider him to be anything of stature. There is no greater damage or pain that is caused than this. The Kashu L'Tzaras Hakol. Chavetz Chaim says, I can't illustrate everything. But rather, he borrows a phrase that give to the wise man and he will get wiser. Meaning, you give the wise person information, give them some basics, and he'll build off of that. I've only come just to bring the point up, to make people begin to think. And the thinking person will now figure out the rest on his own. Let's say in the sense of saying about someone that they're not so wise means in a similar vein, you say about a craftsman that he's not such a good craftsman. He doesn't really know his trade that well, which means he doesn't do it that well. He doesn't run his business that well. He doesn't really know his trade that well. This is 100% Lashon Harah. All the things mentioned before would also apply. It can make a difference about whether people do business with him. It can make a difference about how people look at him, how members of his household, of his family look at him. Now, let's say the reason why you are saying over these things that the person, let's say, isn't such a good craftsman. You're not doing it just to say bad, to speak bad about the person. But rather, it's l'tay elis. You have a constructive purpose of why you want to tell someone that he's not such a good craftsman. Later on, the Chavetz Chaim will go into detail when a person wants to speak about a person lacking a virtue, a skill, whatever it may be, but you're doing it for a constructive purpose. I mean, not just doing it to put down the person you're speaking about, but you want to protect the person who is asking you about this person. Then already it's a different story, and that will be discussed later on about in what way that may be done. But just to go ahead and, as people sometimes do, and say, "Oh, this guy, he's not so good," for no reason other than just talking, and that is 100% Lashon Harah, and actually a very dangerous form of Lashon Harah because of the fact that can really cause a tremendous amount of damage if you start saying about a person that they're not knowledgeable, well-versed, wise in whatever stature they're held and in whatever position they may be in. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.